Good morning. Just doing a little market update for Bitcoin on Monday. So, looking across the board from the weekend, pretty good structure, but we have some downside pressure going into the Monday Open. That's the UTC Open, not the New York Open. So we got some downside pressure. So Asia session definitely opened up bearishly, but we'll see how it goes out throughout the day. We've got some good support levels down at 95K. Looking at the calendar for this week, the big things we want to look at are inflation rates, obviously, and then that's going to be a big one with PPI on Thursday. Yeah, so Wednesday and Thursday are going to be the two big days we kind of look at. Deposit facility rate also. The forecast is that they're going to continue to lower it, so that's good across the board. So long short ratios, middling at best. Nothing really has changed in this overall zone. We are seeing some long step in locally, aggressively, which is adding to that downside pressure. So that's just mostly stepping off from the weekend open, as we were seeing, shorts coming in, and then obviously retail flipped on the Monday open. So with that being said, funding rates are also bearish. They've been bearish for a long time. They're not wildly exorbitantly bearish, but they are still over 0.01. So, yeah. So there's still downside pressure. We've got good demand levels. We'll go through that. Funding rates, just showing kind of like the heat map. We had a really strong zone that was kind of problematic for us. We saw that going into, 4 days ago, the kind of the end of last week. That's cooled off over the weekend, which is good. So across the board, funding rates are coming back down. Let's hope we get that trend where funding rates are kind of slowing down a bit, and we can kind of look at and focus for the next leg up. And then finally, liquidation rates, looking at the zone, that 95K, that 90K, 90K move down, that flushed out a lot of the local long liquidity. So realistically, where's the local liquidity? Well, we've got some decent stuff right below us, down to arguably 95K, where it starts to thin out considerably. Above us, there's a lot more, at 104 and potentially higher. But in the overall zone, for us to actually get into major long liquidity, we would have to go significantly lower than 90K, probably in the mid 85K zone to start clearing that out. But even then, we've got a lot of place, to go from that move that we had last week, that giant swing failure with a giant nuke down that made a new low. So that's still a technical that we need to respect, is that we did technically make a new low from previous lows. So just keep that in mind. Looking at the chart itself, so going through some metrics, middling. So nothing really attractive on any of the extra stuff. What we're still seeing now is some downside pressure. Some areas that I find interesting as far as structure goes, like we got a nice little 4-hour structure here at 98.2 down to about 98K. So we'll see the reaction if there's going to be something bullish locally. Beyond that, we've got some decent stuff down at the weekly open, December. This is all potential support zones with a massive overlapping demand zone between 94.7 and 95.7. So basically a 1K demand zone around about 95K. This is still looking good. As long as we're holding this demand zone as well, we're still holding upside trend with this as the deviation, with overlapping demand below that. So outside of the local pressure, if we're going to start getting that squeeze, we want to see a move of price down, as we're seeing now, kind of into this zone somewhere, which we'll try to find some really strong support. And then we want to see it at some aggressive higher lows, right? This is aggressive higher low with a full send, aggressive higher low with a full send. And that's been the general pattern we've been repeating as soon as we have some breakdown of the structure. There's a lot of resistance, right? We've got some all the weekend structures holding us to the downside here around 100K, where there's a decent amount of supply, people offloading at 100K from the weekly open at 101.2 down to 99.3-ish. So we've got some structure down. We've got some local loss of levels, some local bearish back tests to go lower. In the grand scheme of things, it's still looking up. The loss of 95K, if we invalidate that demand, that starts to break things and forces probably a sub 90K test of structure. Not just of structure, but also of liquidity, which is, well, if we go back down there, we're going to start seeing some grindy nastiness. But yeah, for the time being, it still looks good. You're seeing some downside pressure on the open because it is Monday. Watch for some aggressive buybacks. If we do happen to get back up towards the weekly open, you might get like a last chance to sell it off. I'm not super keen on that because that's a key level that's been, methodically tested several times now in the upside structure, with the last stuff being at the highs, where we can arguably say, anything that gains, the previous high structure at 103K, you should see new all-time highs. So effectively, you've got downside pressure. That's kind of the direction of travel locally. If you start to see invalidations of that, the first one would really be the gain of the weekly, which forces high side retests and then potentially new all-time highs. So play it as such, take it easy, catch you tomorrow.